Hi, welcome to this video tutorial on the revised PYP research presentation format. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the different parts of the revised PYP research presentation for the exhibition. So this is for the PYP exhibition. So before the students, like 2 school years ago, the students were using a modified version of the thesis writing format. But last school year, we revised it so that it's more appropriate, more suitable to a presentation style, because in PYP exhibition, they present their their actions, the research and their actions to the audience. Okay, so instead of a written format, we're doing this presentation format for the PYP exhibition. So this is just a sample cover page. Okay, so the students can choose their motif, their theme, of course. And then the next slide should introduce the group. So we have here just a sample with the name. So every student should have a proper picture, and the picture should clearly show their face and the name and then their role. I would suggest that it should be like this, like it's a profile picture. So it shouldn't be covering their face, so there should be no masks or anything that can cover their face, and then it should only include them. And it can be just like Drew here. He has some people in the background, but the background should not distract from his face. So you can choose to blur the background in this case. Okay, so yeah, so just make sure that they're also properly arranged. Okay, and then next is the rationale. So the rationale is, simply put, is the reason behind the the research. The number one is the statement of the problem. Why have they chosen this particular topic? What is the issue in this topic? What do they want to find out? And the second one is there's the definition of terms, the definition of the keywords. So there are two kinds of definitions that the students should include. The first one is the conceptual definition, which is the dictionary definition, and the second one is the operational definition, which is the definition based on the context of their research, based on the topic. So I would suggest that they use both definitions to establish the problem. Okay, and then by the way, going back to the statement of the problem, the students should include the reason why they chose this kind of problem. What is interesting? And number two, aside from what is interesting, number two is what is the gap in the information, the knowledge gap. What is the knowledge gap that the research is going to address? Okay, that it is going to satisfy. Okay, so why it is interesting and what is the knowledge gap, or yeah, knowledge gap. And then the third one is sustainable development goals. So for the SDGs, it can be put in a separate slide, but still part of the rationale. It should highlight what are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that are relevant to this particular research. So there are 17, so they can identify maybe two or three, and they need to explain clearly why these particular goals are related or relevant to the issue that they are researching about. So it should include the logo of that SDG with the label and a short phrase, okay, or sentence that is going to encapsulate the relevance of that particular goal to the research. Okay, so that's for the rationale. And now let's go to the background. So this is the background of the study or the contexts. So there are two parts of the background of the study. The first one is the global context. So this part should include one or two examples of the existence of the problem in other countries. So because the students have chosen problems or issues that exist here in Kirinchi, right? Or maybe in the school itself, which is very much specific. So they're going to give examples that are from other countries, maybe from the US or from Europe, a specific country in Europe, maybe like Germany or Switzerland. Mm-mm. Could be from Southeast Asia. So two examples would be good. If they can give three examples, that would be great. So it is also important that they mention the countries where these examples are taken from. And then the second part of the background is the local context. So one or two examples again of the existence of the problem in other areas in Indonesia. So it can be from another city or another province. It has to be similar. It does not have to be exactly the same, but a similar problem, maybe a similar element. Okay, so say for example, let's say they're going to study about academic stress. So maybe there's a research about academic stress of high school students, maybe in Jakarta. So that's fine because it's still academic stress, but in Jakarta, and then it's about high school students. Okay, so that's fine. So it doesn't need to be exactly the same as what the students are researching about. In fact, the difference is going to establish the reason why they need to study about it, because that is an area where they still need to look into. Okay, so that's for the context. So for this particular section of the exhibition, they can divide it into at least two different slides. So one for the global context and then one for the local context. Okay, so it does not need to be just in one slide, because there could be like a lot of information, because like two or even three examples would be given, and we need also to have photos or graphics to go along with these examples. Okay, then the next one is on the lines of inquiry. So for the lines of inquiry, it should also compose of one slide per line of inquiry, because they need to show how they explore the lines of inquiry involved in the study. So they're going to state the line of inquiry and then the research that they have found, right? The answers to the inquiries that they have made. And please take note, it's not in the slide, please take note that the students, dear students, you need to cite your references. Remember in grade 5, we talked about APA 7, in-text citation. Yes? So please make sure to include that. Do the same with the global context. Even in the rationale, in each slide where you are using a reference, make sure to use an in-text citation. Okay, so let's go back to the lines of inquiry. So there are three parts. Okay, the first one is the line of inquiry. Number 2, you have the answers to the line of inquiry, and the third one, the in-text citations. Okay, so please take note because they're not in the slide. And then by the way, I would suggest that for the lines of inquiry, it would be better if they are expressed in a question form, because it's easier to answer a question, right? Instead of just saying, for example, let's say academic stress, and then your first line of inquiry is the causes of academic stress. So it would be easier if you're going to start with a question like, what are the causes of academic stress, right? So it's a very specific question. What? So you have a specific direction, okay? Because, yeah, it is specific and you're using the keyword cause, okay? So you can phrase it in two ways. Okay, two ways. Number one is the title phrase, causes of academic stress. And then the second one is the specific question. What are the causes of academic stress? Okay? And you can even have a follow-up question like, why do students experience academic stress? But essentially, it's just the same question, right? Okay. So it's just another way of phrasing it. And then maybe, who knows, the second question may make more sense than the first one. Okay. So, yeah. So that's just a suggestion that you phrase the line of inquiry in a question form, aside from the title phrase. Okay, and now we're going to the solution. So the solution has three parts. So the first one is, of course, the description. What is the solution about? What is the process maybe? Okay, if it involves a process, what is the process that is involved in this solution? And then also, please make sure to define the keywords. Okay, because some of the solutions, most of the time, they actually have like specific or technical terms that are specific or particular to that particular issue, that you are researching about. So it would really help the audience and the panelists later, to understand your research. Okay, so you need to clearly define what the solution is, give the steps, for example, that is required if it requires steps. Yeah, so give a description, and the next one, you have the rationale. So you need to give 3 reasons why this is a viable solution. You need to give 3 reasons. When we say viable, we mean why these are possible, why these are effective solutions. So you need to specify them, okay? All right? Or it could be like there's 1 major reason and 2 supporting reasons to that major reason. It is possible to be like that. They don't need to be separate, okay? But yes, please identify 3 reasons why this is a viable solution, because it's going to make your research more convincing, right? If you can give me 3 reasons why I should do it, then most probably I'm going to do it. Okay, something like that. And then I want you to identify 3 areas of impact. So what are the 3 areas that can benefit from this particular solution? So you have an issue, for example, going back to academic stress. So what are the areas that will be affected, that will be influenced by the solution that you give? So what could be a possible solution to academic stress? It could be, say, for example, time management. So what are the 3 areas of impact? So number one is what? Let's say, for example, mental health, right? Like mental clarity. You have mental clarity if you're able to manage your time properly to avoid academic stress, right? So because you have time management, then you have mental clarity. And what is the benefit of that? You're going to feel calm. You're going to feel at peace with yourself. You're going to feel confident when you go to class, because you know that you have managed your time well, and that you have enough time to do, the different things that you want to do during the day. Aside from school, you have sports, you have ASA, etc., etc. Okay? Right? So that's just one. And you can also look at the key terms here, like society, maybe family. What could be the impact of time management to avoid academic stress to your family? Maybe it means you will have more time with your family, right? More bonding with your parents. You will get to know your parents more. Oh, that's for family. Okay, so that is still a part of society. Or you can even mention like the impact to the greater society. Maybe you will become a better friend. Could it be like that? A more productive member of society? Okay. Is it also involving environment, academic stress? Okay, you need to think about that. And of course, you need to explain accordingly. Okay? And for this part, I would prefer that, I mean, not I, but it is preferable, okay, in the area of research, that for the impact, you also have references. Okay, of course, for the description of the solution itself, there should be a reference, because the idea of the solution definitely does not come from you, right? It's not like originally 100% from you. So you have read about it from somewhere else. So in this part of your research presentation for the PYP exhibition, you should still provide references. Okay? So the description, rationale, and three areas of impact. In all three parts, you should provide references. Okay? So maybe like two or three. Okay, two or three references. And then we have steps taken locally. So these are the examples of the solutions or actions that have been applied in Kerinci or in Riau, or even in Indonesia. Yes, so the concept of local context is going to include the nation also, the country. So yes, so maybe like a program on solving academic stress that happened in Surabaya, or maybe in Medan or somewhere. So please cite accordingly. Okay, give the name of the city, the what else? The name of the company if it's a company, and maybe the grade level. Okay. So be specific in giving the examples, and then also I would like you to emphasize in this step the result. What happened after they applied the solution? Okay, what happened? Did they improve? What was the improvement? Okay, what changes happened? Okay, so I would like you to include that also in the examples. Okay, actually the results are important, because that's going to prove that the solution that you are proposing in the PYP exhibition is actually effective, right? Okay, so that's for the steps taken locally. So until national. Okay, so Kirinci, Riau, Indonesia, those are all local steps. Okay, and then in the same manner, we have the steps taken globally. So it's basically the same in essence with the steps taken locally, but the difference is that for the global steps, it has to be from other countries. So maybe 2 or 3 different countries. So I would suggest choose from different continents. So maybe one from Africa, another from Europe, or maybe from Asia, and another one from the USA, or something like that. Don't choose from the same country or from the same continent, because it's not varied, right? In research, we need to make sure that the scope is wider as much as possible. It is wide. So make sure that the examples are varied. Okay? And then you have your actions taken. So the actions taken, these are the actions that you are actually going to implement, right? So usually you have like one major action and then 2 supporting actions or something like that. So yeah, what you do here, number 1 is you give a brief description of how you came up with your actions, and then so what were your choices? Okay, and then for action 1, of course, for every action, I mean, you need to briefly describe it. Like, what did you do and how did it turn out? Okay, so the action and then the result. Okay, so for example, maybe you had like an like a seminar, okay, with the students. Okay, so you give us the details on that seminar. Who was the speaker? When was it held? What was the feedback from the participants? Okay, if you, let's say, wrote a letter to someone, let's say the president of Indonesia, then you should also describe it there. Right? So how did you write the letter? Did you send it? When did you send it? Did the president reply? Okay, so did you do a signature campaign? So yeah, so these are possible actions. So it depends on your topic, of course. Then you have recommendations. So this is based on your research. So from your research, what are the three things that can be done to solve the problem further? So you have already done your actions, right? But it is a reality, it's a fact that we cannot cover everything in one research. So that's why you're going to make recommendations that, for example, if you're going to continue this research in another school year, let's say, for example, in junior high, if you should be given a chance to do this research again, what would you do differently? Or if somebody else, let's say another student, would do this research or continue this research, what should be done differently? Okay, so um, those are for the recommendations. Okay, or maybe if you want to follow up on this research, what could be done to follow up? What would be the elements or variables that can be focused in the next research? Okay, so that's for the recommendations. All right. By the way, going back to the recommendations, aside from further research, you can also focus on the solutions. So you should also reflect on the effectivity and efficiency of your actions taken. Okay? And yeah, you can make recommendations like if you're going to do it again, if somebody else is going to do the same actions, what should they do differently? Okay, to improve, to have better results. Okay, so that's the point for the recommendations. And then we have conclusion. So in the conclusion, you're going to start with a brief summary of the actions you have taken to solve the problem. So it has to be just like one slide, maybe 2 or 3 sentences. Okay, so just briefly talk about the problem, then the action, and then the result. Problem, action, result. That's it. Okay? So that's for the brief summary. And then the next part is you have to explain what you have learned in the process. So for this one, it's going to be individual, right? So individual slides for each member. So what have you learned in the process? So how did this research change your perspective of the problem? And yes, so one slide for each. So you have like a spotlight on every member. Okay. But for this part, for the explanation on the learning from the research process, your teacher can also, or your mentor can also give their own advice as to how to modify it if they want to modify. But the essence is this one. You need to be able to explain what you've learned and how your perspective or perspectives changed because of this research process. Okay? All right? So maybe you can talk about like your perspective at the beginning of the school year, and then you did the steps of the process for the PYP expedition in this research. You interviewed people, you went to the offices, you gave seminars and interviews, etc., etc., and then you read a lot of articles. And so what now? Do you still have the same mind? Do you still have the same attitude towards the problem, or has it improved? Okay? And how did it improve? All right? So those are the things that we want to see in this part. Okay. And of course, the last part is you need to provide the resources. So it's a separate page where you list all the references or the resources. And okay, number one, you need to use the APA 7 style because that is the proper citation style for research that is applicable for the PYP exhibition. And then number two, arrange the entries alphabetically. Okay, and then of course you group the entries according to genre. Are they books, dictionaries, newspapers, etc., etc.? Okay, so please provide a subheading and then you list the resources. Okay, so for more information on this one, you can ask your English teacher. Okay, I'm sure you have a separate lesson on APA 7 style. All right, and So that's it. So thank you so much. Salamat. Daghang salamat. Thank you. Terima kasih. Danki. And I hope that you learned something. And please feel free to ask questions. You can drop me a line or maybe ask your mentors also. And yeah, don't hesitate. So we are here to help you excel in your PYP exhibition. I am looking forward to witnessing your presentations in the future. So, simangat. Thank you so much guys and have a great day. Bye.